starting right now. We are live. This is WeatherBrains episode number 499, Rick. One away.
So close.
One away
So
from
close.
500. We are so close. But this is going to, forget 500. 499 might be the best show ever. First off, I'm alongside the warning coordination meteorologist at the National Weather Service in Norman, Oklahoma, the legendary Rick Smith.
That's the first time you guys have met, isn't it?
And we have a live studio audience in our studio here.
Oh my gosh!
See, everybody's got to go
They're
watch
like real people.
They look
What do you
real,
think? They're
don't they?
fake people or what? I mean,
Did you pay them to come, James?
did we?
We can't.
No.
We can't talk about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can't.
Okay.
Was
we were offering
every
$5.
was every other possible EMA speaker not available, and that's why you're there?
Right. They contacted all of them. They got down to Bozo the Clown, and I was the last one on the list. So it's going to be good.
All
They
right.
just know that I talk loud and I say occasionally outrageous things. So
Very
after
good.
my boring personal stories. So we're going to be on a two-shot here. Notice the high Kevin. We have Rick on a Heil PR40 microphone this evening.
Oh man, sing something,
So,
Rick.
No. It's a good microphone. It's not that good.
No, now you can't hear it on YouTube, but when you listen to the audio show, the original soundtrack, will be recorded it will be raw. And the other thing, the board I'm using has really nice compression, so he's going to sound good. I mean,
Yeah.
this could be the launch of his new broadcast career.
I'm glad that you're getting us all a PR40. I sent out that thing the other day. They're having them on sale.
Well, there you go. We got two of us with them. I'll work on it. So what's going to happen next? I'm going to put out a little note here. Boy, look at that one. Goodness, all these pictures. See, these things come in so fast and furious. I honestly don't know what to do with them. I mean, that's a shot of the
What do you
Gulf
show?
Coast.
Your Twitter feed or something?
Yeah, they're seeing what I see on my computer on the big screen here. So when I go over to look at tweets on Tweetbot, they're seeing that, which is what they're seeing right now. So I am going to. I'm going to say whether do we get in big trouble or something. No, they were very nice. They were very kind. They took this idea and applied it to television. Have you ever seen the show Weather Geeks on the Weather Channel Sunday morning at 11? That is basically what we do in a.
Except
That's the right
better.
word I'm looking for. It's like cleansed. It's the television version.
It's better.
Professional
Well,
version.
no, they're different. I mean, we go on for hours here. We say really outrageous things. The content in that show's only about 12 minutes so we're different, and they both serve a very good purpose.
That show has Marshall Shepard, very well-respected, intelligent commentator in the business, and this show has you, so it's better.
That's a good point. I mean, the more you think about it, you're right. So now the next thing I got to do is get our guest on here. And the other weird thing for me is that in 6 minutes we join cable television. So if we really say anything outrageous, we need to say it now because we have new owners, and I don't know exactly who they are yet. They own a station here in Oklahoma City.
Oh yeah.
Anything else because I do need this job. We put Kev, our youngest, he moved in, so we are now empty nesters, but he wants to do medical school, so I really need the job. So instead of calling the company I work for Jabronis, and we're going to be very nice. We love these people. But anyway, we're on their cable channel here in 5 minutes, so we've got 5 minutes to say something outrageous. And the next thing I'm going to do is come over to Bill's email that he sent. This is what I get, and we all get from Bill. Again, Bill kind of coordinates this stuff, and Gary Lezak is one of our panelists. So what I do is just get this email address, and I'll come over here and invite him. You guys are really seeing how the sausage is made. This is fantastic. So I'm going to invite him, and he should magically show up down there in the bottom.
And this is the part that always works smoothly.
This is where the whole thing goes right down the tubes. We're pretty good about getting on the air, but sometimes...
this is where my blood pressure hits 170 over 150.
Yeah. And we've had some very good guests that had horrible internet connectivity. The one thing I've learned, the greater the IQ of our guests, the worse the internet connectivity is. I don't know what we've had these brilliant people and they can't get online.
Can't talk to them.
I just don't understand that. So, and what's this other guy's name, Bill? I'm not even going to try this.
I was going to ask him how to pronounce it. So.
See, you don't even know either. You're the guy that set it up, and you don't.
I knew.
Andy.
I forgot already.
We're going to call him just Joe. All right, so let's see. We're going to add him right here. And all right, both of our guests have now been invited. So now this is this is what we do now. We wait on the guests to show up, and if they don't show up, then Bill has to call them on the phone and talk them through this. The one thing about Hangouts, it can be kind of apparently it's a challenge to some people that are not used to it to get on the Hangout because they can really have a hard time.
We use Join Me, and now I just pass the presenter role over to them, and I can show them on their computer.
There's a guest.
Yeah, we have one of our guests here. Hello. We have Joe.
There's Andre.
with no video.
I think he may be going without video, James, because of the bandwidth issue.
Okay.
Andre, can you hear us?
We might be better off doing that here.
I thought of that a long time ago.
Could he hear us?
Thank you for having me. Yes, I can hear you. Thank you for having me.
Where did you grow up? What's your nationality?
I'm originally from Romania. I came in this country 21 years ago.
This could be your worst hour in your 21 years here. We apologize in advance.
Okay.
See, he's a player. He's ready to go along with this. All right, and now we got to get Gary. And once we get Gary, we'll start. And typically, the way I do it in my office. By the way, my office is the size of a closet. We've got two monitors up on the wall. One is for our digital weather channel, so I can typically see the air signal. But they're pretty good about hitting us right at the bottom of the hour. So at 8:30 in 2 minutes, we'll join the cable side. And we try and start the show right after that. And I'll record one audio track that's us. And in this case, it's both of us. And then the other audio track, it's the Hangout folks. After the show is over, we send those two audio files to a guy that produces it. He spends an hour or two and puts it all together. And magically, when people wake up on Tuesday morning, it's there as a podcast. So, hello.
That would be Gary. I'll be back.
How many people have listened to or watched the show before? Be honest.
And we apologize in advance.
Sorry.
We're really sorry. Yeah, the Mike Morgan episode introduced us to a lot of people, and you never know. I've had some I loved. I thought the Gary England episode was great.
Mm-hmm.
I loved having Gary on the show with us. We've had some of the legends in the science on with us. Doswell came on. Anybody know Chuck Doswell? I mean, it was great having him on, and for Chuck, I thought it went pretty smoothly. Hey, Brian Peters is with us, the internationally beloved meteorologist. Brian, how do we look?
As goofy as ever.
Great. That really hurts our feelings.
Did you expect anything less?
This is one of your brethren here. This is a WCM, man. Come on.
Rick looks great. I was talking about you.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Brian.
Right. Now, Brian, so we have a live studio audience this evening to kind of explain how long you worked for the Weather Service and your career in 32 seconds.
Years.
How many years?
360.
By the way, for our studio audience, let me just move the camera. If you think he looks like Colonel Sanders, raise your hand.
Awesome, thanks.
Yes. Notice the hands, Brian. This is great.
Yeah.
I'll go get Santa Claus and change everybody's.
I saw like a story where they were changing the Colonel Sanders today in the KFC ads. Did they call you?
No, they didn't call me.
I mean, I
would have done it.
Wow.
Become rich and famous.
So I see we got Gary, and let me just go ahead and welcome our cable television viewers. It is now 8:30. This is WeatherBrains, the pre-show, which you're probably used to by now. And goodness, now that everybody's here, we can actually start on time, Rick, which is a shocker. And we promise we have a live. And when y'all have to leave, y'all take off. We sometimes this show runs way.
Run now.
to
Whoops.
Check 1, 2, 3.
weather on television.
There goes your bandwidth.
And it call and do television. So we try and end it by 10 o'clock, but some nights it just keeps on going. And Aubrey said she might be a little late, but she promises that she's going to be here. So, hey, Gary, can you hear us?
Yes, James, can you hear me?
Yeah, man, you got a good-looking head. Wow.
Yeah, look at that. It looks similar to yours.
I mean, I'm about to say, your head is symmetrical. I mean, mine's lopsided. The reason I don't shave my head is that if I shave my head, it would just have potholes all. It's horrible. So
I'm very lucky. Yeah. I've got a symmetrical head, but you're really not seeing the backside.
No, that's a good-looking head. I'm done. All right, so let's start this thing here, and it's going to be a little different. I've never done this show without the earphones, but we've got the speakers so everybody in the room can hear this. So I feel like almost naked without my earplugs, but we'll make it. So here we go. And again, this is Audio Hijack Pro here. What you're watching. And what I'm going to do, this top tray, and this is the way it works. The USB, just real quickly, so you can see the sauce for those interested. The USB audio codec, it is this mixer, which has both of our mics into it. So that's Rick's audio and my audio. There's a little compression we're doing here with this. It goes through a dynamics processor, and quite frankly, we really don't need that because this has some compression. And then it outputs to a little thing called Soundflower Channel 2 that routes it down to the Google Hangout. This is the recorder, and I'm going to turn it on. So now we're recording our track, and this is for the Hangout track. I'm sorry. Yeah, here it is down here. This is for the Hangout track. Soundflower Channel 64 is the output of the Hangout track.
Rick, keep him straight.
And here's the magical soundboard. This is where all the good stuff happens here. I mean, hang on a minute.
The foghorn.
Now I feel like I'm in a game show.
That's right. Could you guys heard the foghorn, right?
Yes.
That's right. Our audience cannot hear the foghorn because of the way it's routed. You're only hearing the Hangout. So the one thing that I will not be able to hear very well, in fact, I can't hear it all. It's this stuff. So, but we'll make it work. All right, here we go. Producer, it is 8:33. We're starting now in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. WeatherBrains! Hey, it's WeatherBrains. This is episode number 499. This is the weekly show all about weather. Wait a minute. Let's start this.
We haven't had a restart in a long time.
There you go.
I can't hear the music. So what I'm going to do is play the all instrumental. That way I can't foul it up. I'm going to play. I've got different versions. I've got the full theme. I've got the shout bed. I've got the all instrumental. We're going all instrumental. So this is going to work. So producer, I'm so sorry. Here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is WeatherBrains, episode number 499 for August 17th, 2015. I'm James, and I am joined.
That's right.
Are in Norman, Oklahoma. And Rick, you first off explain where we are. And for those that are watching, I'll move the camera around here. Here we go.
We are at the annual Oklahoma Emergency Management Association Conference, WAVE.
Yes.
We've got about 30, 35 emergency managers from all over the state of Oklahoma here. It's a week-long conference. Lots of learning, lots of cool presentations, and everybody is waiting with bated breath to hear one of the first talks tomorrow morning.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be good. I told people I'm going to stay up all night, so I'll be extra cranky for this tomorrow morning. So I will apologize in advance if I say something I shouldn't say. So, and look who's here. Aubrey Urbanowitz is here. Aubrey, welcome.
Hi, I'm so sorry.
So sorry for what?
Sorry that you're here?
No, sorry for not having been here.
We can't be mad at you when you have the dog there.
No, yeah, Bear's a little. I just got home from work, so Bear's a little extra cuddly to me.
Wow. Well, welcome. We're going to have 3 hours of emails to read, so we'll let our guests go, and then we'll just stay and do the 3 hours of email. But so what's going on in your world? We haven't seen you in like 5 years. You doing okay?
Yeah, our side business has just been nuts. So that's been what we've been doing in our off time, and the weather has been nice and hot, and therapy here.
Cool. Well, Aubrey, it's great to have you back. We got Brian Peters, the internationally beloved meteorologist. Brian, I feel bad about last week. We had, Rick, a storm that was coming through my market, and I had to deal with television, so I really couldn't participate. So, Brian, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Would you like to just fathom a guess as to what the high in Birmingham was today?
I have no earthly idea, but let me guess. How about 81?
Well, you did pretty well. 79.
Wow.
Wow. Goodness.
I tweeted out that nobody in their right mind would risk a forecast of 79.
No, I didn't. I didn't go that low. That's okay. Nobody's griping. To have a high of 79 in mid-August at this latitude is unbelievable. Oklahoma City did what, 93 today, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, we had 90s here. So,
well, 1¼ inches of rain in addition to that at the airport.
We had a tornado today in South Mississippi in Covington County. Did you see that, Brian?
I saw that. Yes.
That was very interesting. In fact, we actually had a couple of low-top supercell signatures over North Alabama today, and I was getting really nervous because they pay me good money to be on that big green wall when there's tornadoes, and I'm thinking, all right, but when we had some damage in Gadsden, it looked like it was a microburst instead of a small tornado, but the damage in Mississippi was pretty significant, and the video was really stunning. If you go back on my Twitter feed, you can see that. So, very interesting day of weather. Kevin Selly, are you cranky tonight?
Absolutely, and going forward, I'd like for you to call me Godzilla, please.
Oh, no.
Oh, brother.
And also, unlike Aubrey, I am unhappy to be here.
Well, we're happy you're here, Kevin.
Oh, thank you.
Well, Aubrey, what are you eating? What is that, yogurt? Cereal?
My husband made me some soups when I got home from work because I haven't eaten yet today. So it's like chicken and rice.
That's sweet.
How sweet.
That's nice.
Wow.
Yep. They're newlyweds.
Yep.
Yeah,
Just
that'll wear off soon. So Rook, and I don't want to chase a rabbit here. So we had the Godzilla El Nino story that just got out of hand. So and here's the problem. And I know that Jason Sanow at the Washington Post, he defended this guy, right? And this was one of your guys. It was a NOAA guy, right?
JPL.
Oh, JPL, okay.
A NASA guy.
Yeah, it's government, federal government, same thing. Yeah. So the problem is
sometimes different.
You got, some people on the street that think they're going to die. Because you watch the news, and of course it's a monster storm with 80 million in the path. It's never happened before, and now it's not a monster storm; it's a Godzilla storm.
Yep.
So Kevin, you're cranky on this one too, aren't you?
I am cranky. I did a little research on this. I actually called JPL and talked to the media person there, and she told me she was a tiny bit guarded, but she was very helpful. But she told me that guy, what's his name, Bill Halpert, something like that, the guy that said Godzilla, he apparently uses that kind of language all the time. If it's a weak El Nino, he'll call it El Wimpo, and he's been saying Godzilla for a long, long time, apparently. And I think what happened was when the CPC announcement came out last week, either he had recently used it or right around the same time, and somehow the Godzilla term got sucked in and merged with the CPC El Nino forecast. And once you put Godzilla in any headline anywhere, the internet and the national media are going to take off running. And I think that's what happened in this case.
What's wrong? Hey, James, can't they just say El Nino is going to impact the world? Why does it have to be Godzilla?
Yes. No, I think Gary's on it. Gary's
Aubrey, go ahead. Aubrey has some sense. You go ahead.
No, wait. Every report now needs to say 7 billion people possibly affected, and we're fine.
Well, I said, why can't we just say it has the potential to become a strong El Nino? Why do we have to use such descriptive words as Godzilla? Because people don't get the El Nino as a pattern. They're expecting some big storm. And I think for most of us, and I get Jason Sanon's point of view, but some of us need to relax. But I think at the same time we see this word and we're just like, all of us meteorologists are just going, not again,
And then, El Nino, you hear it's happening, it's growing in strength, guys. And Boston last year had over 100 inches of snow. If it was an El Nino last winter, a strong El Nino, it would have that Boston snow would have been because of El Nino. And you know that's not the case. So just an influence.
Yeah, and by the way, I know there was some echo just a second ago. What we're going to do, we're going to mute our mics while everybody else is talking because we've got speakers on here in the room so our live studio audience can hear. But here, I don't think this guy knew, or maybe he doesn't watch the news, the guy with JPL that said that these, boneheads on these national news broadcasts hype up everything. Every night, it doesn't matter what's happening. World War III can break out, but they're going to lead with some dust devil or it's raining in Cleveland, and it's a monster storm with 80 million in the path that is unprecedented. And he doesn't, I don't think, understand the problem we have with hyperbole at the national news level. I think if he would have been cognizant of that, he probably wouldn't have said that. Don't you agree, Rick?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, once that's out there, I mean, that's just they ate that up. And another thing that's annoying, it's not just the Godzilla, but now this is being characterized as something that's moving toward the United States. The El Nino is coming. Godzilla's trudging through the water headed toward the west coast of the United States like it's a thing that's moving this way. And it just gets all mixed up and is just...
Yeah, I saw at least 2 headlines that said massive El Nino approaching the United States. Yeah. What does that mean? That doesn't make any sense. So I didn't mean to get all we're chasing the bad rabbit. Yes.
You obviously haven't. You're not quite cranky enough. You haven't seen the latest edition of the Old Farmer's Almanac, have you?
Oh no.
I was going to bring up no.
Oh, we got some things we got to talk about tonight, and we're going to do that after we get our guests going. But we need to talk about the almanac and this massive snow thing. All right, and we need to talk about the anniversary of Hurricane Camille, which is today. And that played a big role in my young childhood. I mean, most people in this room and listening to this show and watching this show, they weren't even thinking about being alive in 1969, but I was 13 years old, and that had a big impact on my life. So we're going to talk about the snow forecast from the Almanac and Camille. But Bill Murray, you better bring in our guests before they hang up on us.
Well, you've already heard from one of them, James. Of course, our guest panelist tonight is a native of Southern California, graduate at the University of Oklahoma. He worked with Gary England in Oklahoma City before moving on to Kansas City in 1992. He became the chief meteorologist at KSHB in 1999. That's where he's been ever since. Gary Lezak, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much. I didn't realize I wasn't supposed to start talking yet.
No, you're perfect.
No, it's great.
Thanks for jumping in, because you're one of us tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm honored to be part of it tonight, and got a lot of things to talk about. I look forward to it.
Outstanding. Well, we really want to talk to you about long-range forecasting and your Lezak recurring theory.
The Smart Farmer's Almanac.
There you go. So thanks for joining us. Just jump in anywhere you see a chance tonight, Gary. Thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
And our guest WeatherBrain tonight is the co-founder and CTO at Green Electronics. They're the makers of the Rain Machine. He's been managing a team of hardware and software developers that focus on the industrial design, the network architecture, and the hardware implementation aspects of the Rain Machine product that we'll hear about. He's a strong proponent of open source frameworks involving water conservation projects where increased conservation and efficiency can be achieved through better access of environmental information. Andre Boulacia, welcome to WeatherBrains. And I know I just butchered your name, Andre.
No, it's fine. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having us.
We're so glad that you're here. I was really intrigued with your product, Andre, when I saw it, because anytime I see someone using weather in the Internet of Things, I'm very fascinated by that. So tell us about the product and how it works.
Okay, I guess I can talk about the computer itself that runs this irrigation controller. And of course, it's a computer, and it's an Internet of Things computer. It performs all the mundane basic tasks of a, let's say, irrigation controller, right? Such as a turn on, turn off, basically a timer. All irrigation controllers do that. What the Rain Machine does extra is it takes weather information and it modulates it up and down as necessary based on evapotranspiration calculations. Actually, the Rain Machine is is two machines in one. One is an evapotranspirator, and the other one is a weather machine that gets input from all kinds of meteorological data sources. The echo is terrible.
Hey, sorry guys, we were trying to use our phones and activate a separate camera. We're not going to do that. We're going to totally give up on that. So sorry about that. That was totally our fault.
Sorry.
So Andre,
No
continue. So,
Yeah,
so
sure.
there's two machines in one here, and you talk about something that's measuring the evaporation. Is that right? How that
Yes.
works, and then using future forecasting.
Right. So let's follow the data. Let's follow the weather data where it all starts. Basically, is okay. Well, so there are two ways of calculating evapotranspiration and compensating daily for it. Right. One is to use local sensors, such as a rain gauge or a humidity sensor, and that's pretty much the only basic feedback you would have to put into a evapotranspirator in order to maintain the proper moisture. The problem with local sensors is that they're always inaccurate, and actually they can give faulty data. So we believe that the best information for your plants is picked up from sensors that fly 22,000 miles above the sky and collect data about environmental data such as temperature and so forth. But basically what our machine does, it extracts information from the NDFD on every 6 hours, and it computes that in a database. We take minimum temperature, maximum temperature, dew point, QPF, quantitative precipitation amount, every 6 hours for up to 72 hours, relative humidity, sky cover, and wind. And based on this information, we can always calculate how much more water is needed for your backyard. Furthermore, we don't just read one data source. We created a meteorological mixer where we can have multiple temperatures, multiple minimum temperatures, multiple maximum temperatures, multiple QPFs, and so on. By mixing this data, we can obtain a higher level of reliability, I think, and accuracy in how the machine deals with weather. What's notable also, I think, about this machine compared with other Internet of Things devices is the method of getting the data. Because we're using a full-blown Linux machine, we can compute everything on the machine itself, and we actually make the requests from the machine itself directly to NOAA, directly to METNO, or directly to whatever weather source we choose to. Other models rely on a cloud-based computing platform that's going to aggregate this, compute the data for you, and send you a result. We believe that having everything gathered locally gives another level of privacy as well as reliability. It's just simple. You don't have to rely on any other cloud type services.
And so what happens? This information goes into the algorithm, and then it decides how much irrigation to put out for the day for your location. Is that right, Andre?
Right. So, for example, temperature is the main driver force for evapotranspiration, and in a hot day, you will see a lot of water use. In a day that's cooler or has a little bit of rain or a lot of rain, you will see an appropriate response from the machine in terms of watering less or not at all.
Right. So what if I get on a day like today where I get 1.25 inches of rain here in Birmingham? Is there a local rain gauge that does it, or do you use the National Weather Service data, or do you use something from the satellite?
Right. The rain machine has the capability of reading input from rain gauges, basically dumb on-off switches, and if that happens and if that's set up, the machine will not start its watering cycle, regardless on the quantity of rain. We see rain sensor a little bit more like a legacy feature. We found out that NDFD's data in terms of QPF is extremely and amazingly accurate. Furthermore, we are developing a parser that will allow us to extract weather information from personal weather stations using the WPS algorithm. Again, this is just another data source that will serve the rain machine in parallel with the other sources.
So when you're using that, you're using what the sort of what the satellite and radar estimates are for what for the previous day for rainfall. Is that right? So that you have
That's
an
correct.
idea of what really fell.
Up to 72 hours for QPF, and temperature and wind information up to 7 days. So basically, the machine can work even when disconnected briefly from the internet, meaning 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days. It can still consume from its data cache.
So now, Andre, give us an idea, ballpark, what a device like this would cost, how big it is, and what sort of requirements it takes to run it.
Right. We have two devices. One with no display. It looks like a simple box, and that's around $150. And the fancier one that has a color display as well as a touch screen, it runs around $250, and it has a beautiful meteogram displayed on the home screen. And that's kind of the addictive part of it, because people go to in their garage to always check on weather using the rain machine, and they can always see the interaction, this relationship in between evapotranspiration and temperature, or evapotranspiration and QPF. It's very easy to understand.
Well, that's very cool. This sounds like a product that is quite a value, because I imagine there's some savings that you can accomplish, by using something like this.
Yeah, absolutely, and the savings show, as we all know, in the autumn and spring, where the temperature energy is not as high as in the summer. So during these periods of time, where a regular machine would have a fixed schedule of 5 minutes, we take this base amount of water and we can reduce it to 2.5 minutes, which is or 1 minute, depending on temperature. So as an average, and again, it depends on your location, the savings can be anywhere from 25 to 50%. I'm really curious to see how the rain machine will react to the upcoming El Nino event.
Yeah, and I guess in California, where drought is so horrible, and things are the state has really come up with some very impressive groundwater policies. I imagine you're selling a lot of these there, right?
Yes, we do, absolutely. However, our rain machine cannot fix the drought problem, unfortunately.
No, only Kevin can do that. Kevin is our drought buster. So.
Well, so people are faced with the choice of what do I do with the lawn? Do I rip it apart and install nothing, or do I put it on a diet, basically? And actually, the rain machine can help you do just that, while maintaining probably some green into your lawn.
So real quick, before we move just into a couple of other things, Andre, while we got you here, can you just get this at the local Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever the?
It's available. It will be available
on the internet.
Yeah, it will be available on Home Depot, but it's available right now on Amazon.
Okay, fantastic. So, we touched on the Internet of Things. Andre, talk about what that concept means for those who might not be familiar with that, and what other things do you see tying into from a weather standpoint, both with your company and in the future? Well,
I don't know. Weather and weather data, I think it always empowers all kinds of applications to run smarter, and the rain machine is just one of the examples on how sort of big data from NOAA can help actually save and conserve water, which is very important. In terms of Internet of Things, things are not so clear these days on what the direction should be with such devices. Many people think that an Internet of Things device has to be this extremely dumb, simple machine that can basically connect to the mothership and take instructions, right? This is the model, of course, on which all sensors work. You don't need much intelligence on the machine itself. All you need to do is wake up, connect to the server, dump your data, and then go to sleep. So for that, you need really inexpensive processors, network processors, and the only thing that they know what to do is how to initiate a TCP connection, how to maintain it, and maybe how to encrypt that connection so that it becomes secure. Now, this presents all kinds of applications with the following dilemma. What happens when the internet goes down? What happens when the cloud service goes down? What happens if the cloud service gets hacked? Those are questions that one has to put a lot of faith into the system that provides the Internet of Things service for your light bulb or your thermostat and so on. We believe that things can be slightly different in terms of gaining independence from the cloud by basically running a larger operating system that consumes more resources. I grant that, but it's able to operate on its own and gather data on its own and reply to requests from clients on its own. This is what I think the future is.
Hey, Bill, are you talking?
Did we lose Bill?
We're not hearing a. Bill is just talking to himself. And Bill always gets this look on his face.
Doggone it. How about now?
You're back.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
See, if you like an organized show, you won't like this one. That's what I always say.
Google people, this thing is
Awkward
just ridiculous.
silence.
So yeah, I'd muted and I came back and I lost you apparently. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, so Andre, talk about any other products that your company's working on that might relate to weather or not to weather. Anything that's interesting in development.
This is pretty much it. We're continue to develop the product and try to interface it with as many weather data sources as possible. One of our projects is to work with MeteoBridge to be able to read that data, weather data, directly from it.
I'm always fascinated when anyone uses the NDFD and those sort of things to sort of battle the crap app fatigue that we suffer from, and I think your product is very interesting and very exciting. And for as a homeowner in the South who goes through periods of boom and bust in the rainfall department, I'm sure that it's going to be extremely successful. That's very affordable for what you're getting, I think, Andre.
Yeah, it's a full-fledged computer. I have a question for you guys. Maybe you can shed some light into this. Okay. When we initially started to design the rain machine, we looked at data sources, like weather data sources, and things that came first to light were, Weather Underground, the Weather Channel, and so forth, all these sort of commercial entities that have, various levels of service. Some of them are free, some of them are commercial, right? We chose NDFD, we chose NOAA. Is this a good or a bad decision in terms of data accuracy? I know that NDFD is a super reliable service. It never went down on us, so we can exclude that. But in terms of the quality of the data, what do you think? NDFD stays around compared with the other weather sources.
Well, I think the big question is about how much rainfall fell in the short run. I think that's the big thing, and I think you refer to the WPS. Rick may know more exactly what what that product is that is gridded and comes out and gives you sort of an average precipitation across a certain area. I'm not sure about that, Rick. Can you shed any light on what would be a good product in terms of knowing how much precipitation fell in an area?
One of the products we use around here locally is a lot of the river forecast centers produce mosaics of precipitation based on radar and based on observations. I don't know if there's a national equivalent of that, but the river forecast centers produce those.
Okay, yeah, NDFD does not have radar-based QPF. We're waiting for that product.
Yeah, I think you should look for that product. And if you go to water.weather.gov, I think that's pretty much, there's a new example of what that looks like, Rick. And I'm sure that data is available in grid format or some sort of gridded format probably.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I applaud you for using the NDFD. I think that's fantastic. There are 3,500 men and women that are making those forecasts 24/7, and I applaud you for going that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Another problem that we're facing is, what to do if you have multiple rain information from multiple sources. Which one do you trust? So for now, we allow the user to turn off and on individual data streams because I don't think there is such a thing as a magic protocol that decides which source is actually more reliable.
No, not with the spotty nature of showers, particularly when it comes to convection. Yes. You have CocoRa's, you have that very reliable network. Radar estimates are troublesome at times, like on a day in Alabama today where we had almost tropical type rainfall. The rainfall rates don't compute. So, but we still applaud what you're doing, Andre. Talk about water conservation in general. I know that's a very important concept and topic to you.
Well, it is. It's becoming increasingly important for me because I'm a Californian and I see all this devastation induced by the drought. And to be honest with you, there is no solution. No rain machine can fix it. But I've seen firsthand the devastation of high temperatures. And basically, we have ways to see a water budget for current year compared with the water budget of a previous year, right? Because we compute that every day, and when we have a 365 statistic. During a drought, water consumption driven by evapotranspiration goes up at least 30%. And this is not just people's backyards. This is every piece of land, forest, fields. So just imagine a double whammy, not getting rain and increasing the rate of evapotranspiration. And that just, even a dumb machine like the rain machine can reveal the level of devastation.
And Rick can comment to that, being in Oklahoma, being boom or bust lately with rainfall because, they went from drought to, way too much water too quickly. Then, the heat of summer immediately put those heat indexes back in place, didn't they, Rick?
Absolutely. It made a big difference with the dew points this summer. They were 15 to 20 degrees higher than they were last summer, and you could feel every degree of it.
Well, Andre, we applaud what you're doing, and we thank you for being on the show tonight. And you can send one of those over to James Spann, his palatial mansion. He could put it out and maybe save some water over here in Central Alabama.
I will.
We're going to get the other guy in here. We're gonna fuss at him here.
Hello.
Are we back?
Hello?
Did we lose you?
No, I'm back. I'm sorry, guys.
Thought we lost the mothership there.
We're having to manage muting and unmuting, and this is a whole new concept for me, so my bad.
So, Andre, we thank you for being on the show tonight. You can just send one of those over to the WeatherBrains crew, and we'll all test them out for you.
I will, definitely. Thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome to stick around, Andre, or, I know you're probably about time for dinner out there in California, so you're welcome to stay, or you're welcome to go have a nice dinner on us.
Thank you.
All right. And Gary Lesak.
Hey, good evening.
Up in Kansas City. How's the rainfall been there this year?
It's been incredible. We've had about 15 inches of rain this summer since June 1st. This is our first 6-day stretch without rain since March. So it's precipitated every single week, and it's going to rain tomorrow. So forecast, my forecast, about 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches of rain tomorrow. So that'll give us 16 inches of rain for the summer. At that
Hey, Gary, I think we lost your video. Can you turn your camera back on?
Let's see. I think it's on. Just a second here.
Nice.
Turn camera off. Turn camera on. Can you see
Bingo.
me?
Bingo.
Can you see me now?
You're
Yeah,
back.
you're good.
Yay. So anyway, yeah, we've had a wet summer. It's been a fascinating summer. Do you guys know, have you heard about my theory, the LRC, at all?
Oh, yes, but I want you to explain it again.
Okay.
'Cause I think it's really fascinating.
Well, those of you in Oklahoma should be interested because this is really when I found it. I went to the University of Oklahoma, and it was probably while I was at school, some of my fellow students said I was starting to talk about the cycling weather pattern, but what I remember was the year of 1987, 1988, that winter, and you might remember in Oklahoma if you're from there, but it snowed in November. There was a major snowstorm in December, around December 16th. There was an ice storm at the end of December. And then in February, there was another big snowstorm. Then it snowed again in March. This is Oklahoma City. A 12 to 14-inch snowstorm in December. And then there was another one in early February. And when that storm happened, I was real obsessed with 500 millibar maps and upper level flow, and Dr. George Fishback was my idol growing up in Southern California, and he used to show 500 millibar charts on the air when I was a kid. I was like, wow, what is that? And so I've always been obsessed with that. But I looked at the pattern, I saw how this February storm had formed, and I'm like, wow, it looks very similar to the one from December. It almost looked identical, the way the vorticity moved around the upper level flow. Everything just lined up, and at that point I was like, wow, it's like the same storm 50 days later. And over the next few years, I was working with Gary England at the time. I was 2 years into my career in television. I was the morning meteorologist there, and Gary was my mentor, and it was about that time I started forecasting these patterns to develop, and Gary England would say, Lozak, call me Lozak. Lozak, you can't make these 10-day forecasts. So, but that's when I started. I just noticed that patterns were repeating. And so as we went into the early 90s, I moved to Kansas City. By around 1996, I started forecasting the weather patterns, and the whole weather pattern above us, the whole weather pattern is cycling above us. And it's not just that one storm system. It's that storm on December 16th was like that February storm system, and then every day from there on, the whole weather pattern is cycling. What would you guys do if you knew what the weather pattern was going to look like 50 days, 100 days from now? What would you do? Let's say it's like, here it is, January 1st. You know on February 20th, it's going to look like January 1st. What would you do with that information?
Plan out my vacation.
Put in a leave request.
Yeah, I'm out of here.
That was my thought. Vacation.
Exactly. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing that kind of thing. We're making these weather forecasts, and the pattern. Another example would be Superstorm Sandy, October 2012, major storm. A hurricane's coming towards the East Coast. There's this blocking forming to the north, and Sandy gets pulled in to the East Coast as a big storm is developing through the Great Lakes. It forms into this huge superstorm. That storm repeated every 51 to 52 to 53 days all the way into next January, February, March, April, May, and I can show you how the Moore and El Reno tornado outbreaks were directly related to Superstorm Sandy and the whole process in the upper levels of the atmosphere, how it cycled through during May, the same pattern from October.
When is your book coming out?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I got a website, Weather 2020. My forecasts are now in the One Weather app. It's a very popular weather app for only Androids right now. The iOS version will be out early next year, but it's called One Weather, and our 12-week forecasts are now in that app. They have 10 million users, and in the last month that it's been in there, we've had about 1 million people finally get to experience these forecasts. They're accurate. I said earlier the Smart Farmer's Almanac. The Farmer's Almanac, they say they have this secret formula. We have this breakthrough technology that I'm sharing with you through my site, Weather 2020. You can join the blog and learn more about it there. But it's really an incredible technology, guys. We have this amazing thing. The river of air above us is cycling. I can show it to you how it works. Gary England will tell you he saw it. It was like a few years ago, Oklahoma City was about to have a snowstorm. I said, Gary, it's guaranteed. I guarantee it's going to hit Oklahoma City because this storm happened about 55 days ago that year. Every year cycle is different. And he saw it, and he called me. He said, what is that? I saw it. It's the same but different, and that's the point. The same pattern. This year's cycle is 47 days, give or take a few days, 43 to 50 days. And the pattern today, if you look at the 72-hour forecast, valid August 20th in 3 days, compare that to December 28th. They're exactly 235 days apart, or 47 times 5. It's the same pattern, guys. What do you think? Is it possible?
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating.
You're publishing this stuff, Gary.
Yeah, I'm serious. I would love to read the book on this.
Well, I haven't written the book yet, but I've got it in my blog. So I got the whole history of it, and it's fascinating. It really is. And so what did we do, James? I know you're a little bit as a skeptic on these long-range forecasts. I know you. Okay. I know what you're thinking. You're like, what do I say to Lezak here? But the Super Bowl outside in East Rutherford, New Jersey. There is I thought here is my best weather forecast I've ever made, and the pattern set up that year. It's going to be outside. AccuWeather, the Farmer's Almanac, these other sources that even tried to make long-range forecasts said brutal cold and snow. It's going to be horrible. Brutal cold and snow. No chance of that Super Bowl. It's going to be so bad. How could they play this outside? Well, by December 7th of that year, the pattern had cycled through one full cycle. We were in about a 57-day cycle. I was just confirming that. And December 6th, 7th, 8th would line up with the Super Bowl. I took that weather pattern from December 6th, 7th, and 8th, projected forward to February 2nd, the Super Bowl, outside of East Rutherford. And what had happened in the December version of the pattern, a big storm dropped into the Great Lakes, huge high-amplitude pattern. It drops in, and warm air surges up the East Coast. So I now know that that part of the pattern is going to return right around Super Bowl Sunday. I waited until about 4 weeks before, about January 5th, January 6th, and we put out our forecast with a press release that said no chance of snow for the Super Bowl. And NewJersey.com, NJ.com reporter picked up on it, and you can go find it online. He printed it, put it in the paper, and he said, chalk this one up for wishful thinking. This weather company thinks it's going to be no chance of snow, and for those of you partaking activities in the Super Bowl festivities, it's going to warm into the 50s. Good luck at that one. It was 54 degrees on Super Bowl Sunday, sunny, beautiful, gorgeous weather. Absolutely gorgeous.
All right, so Gary, talk about how you can tell when the pattern is shifting from 47 to 51 to 55 days. How
That's
do you
what my
know?
question was going to be.
Comparing analog?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's an analog of this year's pattern. There's a few things that it's this year's pattern. So right now we're in the same pattern that set up last October. What's happening right now, and I don't know the causes. I don't know exactly why. I mean, El Nino is an influence, only an influence. I think all the ocean, land patterns, air masses. Right now it's getting dark at the North Pole, so the new pattern's about to start evolving. But it isn't until about the first week of October. and then it clicks in. We sort of phase into the new pattern, and then by October 5th, 6th, 7th, 10th, 15th, something like that, the new pattern is now set up. But let's say day one is October 5th. I am not going to know. We will not know. And it's there for everyone to see. We will not know what the pattern will be until it repeats. This year's pattern is about 47 days, 43 to 50, centered on 46 to 47 days. Next year might be 55 days. It might be 60 days. If it's 60 days, then on October 1st, all of a sudden December 1st will come around. Oh my gosh, there it is. And from that point on, the pattern is cycling. And then once you know that, you can make weather forecasts, accurate weather forecasts, 100, 200 days. I made the Super Bowl forecast. We made the Masters golf tournament forecast a year ago when it washed out the first round of the pre-practice rounds. Many other forecasts, and now they're on this one weather app. So I'm putting, James, if you're wondering, I put myself out there with, can you imagine putting your forecast out there every day? For the entire United States, we are putting these forecasts out there, and we're not going to be perfect. 70%, 60% accurate is actually really good.
So tell us more about the business model, Gary. So you're doing television. Do you have a private company that's marketing this app on the side? And you say it's called Weather One, and it's for Android only. I was going to ask, how much is it, and does it come into the iPhone?
It's one weather. It's a number one weather. And so just one weather app on Android devices. They have 10 million users, and our part of that app is the 12-week forecast, and our videos are on there. In fact, right now the video that's playing is the forecast for the New England versus the Pittsburgh Steelers opening day game. I think it's September 10th. We have the forecast not just written out, but on video. I have video proof if the weather forecast verifies, which I believe it will. But it's on one weather, and then of course my company's Weather 2020. Weather 2020, like 2020. We know the future. We can see the future. Weather2020.com, and I've been sharing this a long time through the KSHB blog at 41 Action News, and a lot of people around here know about it. They believe in it, but we're not perfect. You know, if I predict 5 winter storms and we get 4 out of the 5 right, that's usually what we do.
Jeez.
We're not going to be perfect.
So hey, let me ask you this: why not submit this to peer review and go through the typical process so the whole weather community can benefit from your knowledge, or is it something that you want to keep just as a proprietary technique for you?
No, I want to share this with the world. I call it breakthrough technology, okay? But I've been trying to share it, but I haven't done a peer review. I haven't gotten a team of PhD students to do it. I talked to Dr. Fred Carr years ago at the University of Oklahoma, and he gave me some great ideas. He says, why don't you plot these 500 millibar charts and show how they cycle? So I've got this thing now called the LRC Index, and Dr. Carr, if you're listening, I actually have involved in that, but I don't have a team to help me get that peer review. And how much time does that take? You know, James, how much effort it is to in our careers right now the way it is. And so it is in my plans. I always say it's in my plans. I've written a paper on the Superstorm Sandy part of the weather pattern. I could share it with you. I have a 30-page paper I wrote. It's a little wordy, a lot of pictures, showing how Superstorm Sandy is related to Moore and El Reno tornado outbreaks. And believe it or not, the Moore and El Reno tornado setups, if you look at the upper level flow, that was identical. The LRC is all about 2 things. 1, the cycle, but 2, next fall, long-term, long-wave troughs and ridges are going to be setting up. So, El Nino is growing. Our possibly very strong El Nino. It doesn't mean it's going to be a wet winter in California. It will be a wet winter if one of these long-term, long-wave troughs sets up near the West Coast. We will know that in October. I shouldn't be giving away all these secrets, but watch October closely.
So if you see that in October, will you release that to the world, or are you going to keep that just for those people that buy the app?
I will let everybody know. I always let everybody know. I don't hold anything back. It's all shared.
Who do you work with on this app?
I have a team, a great team of meteorologists with me now. We have 4 meteorologists that are part of my team. I have a technology team. Only in the past year have we really organized a really good team. And now we're in the app with this one weather app. So as I said, there's 10 million, 12 million monthly users. They're getting to experience their forecast. They're 1 month in. To get to the 12-week forecast, they got to get to the 12th week before we get feedback on how accurate it was for planning. We have an agriculture product, an ag exact report. Think about what this means for agriculture. Think about what this new technology means for every business. It's really amazing.
So let me ask you this. Are you aware of the AccuWeather 45-day forecast?
Yes.
And if so, what do you think about that?
You know, I'm not making specific number forecasts, and they're not basing it on anything like what I'm doing here. So those forecasts are wrong most of the time, as you likely probably know. The Farmer's Almanac forecasts are wrong most of the time, as you probably likely know. And our forecasts are accurate in this, 50 to 80% range. When we really concentrate on it, like that Super Bowl forecast, and I presented last year at Lake Tahoe, and on that forecast, we spent a lot of time on that. And when we really, really get the pattern down, we can get within a day or two of getting the forecast right 100 days out. So yeah, it's out there.
So what's the weather going to be like at Christmas in Oklahoma City? Rick wants to know here.
The pattern doesn't set up until October, didn't you,
Thank you, Aubrey. Thank you.
He can tell you about the NWA at the end of October, but that's as far as it goes.
That's the one thing that right now at this time of the year, from September and October, and some of those ENSO experts will tell you that the fall is the most unpredictable time of the year because the new patterns are always setting up. So in October, the new pattern sets up. By November, I start to see what it is. I can give you an idea. And by December 1st, in meteorology, James, you know how it works. A 7-day forecast is maybe 50% accurate. Tomorrow's forecast, if we get 90% right, that's what we try to do. 3 to 4 days, if we're 60 to 75%, that's pretty good. 7 days out, we're about 50% accurate at best. And my 6 to 12 week forecast, weather 26 to 12 week forecasts are better than a 7-day forecast. We know when the computer models are right and when they're wrong. What do you think it was like when the Super Bowl forecast, about 7 days before, the 168-hour GFS has this blizzard? Here I predicted sunshine and in the 50s, and the GFS model is showing a blizzard, but I know it's wrong. I slept well because I knew it was wrong.
So that's my question for you. When a model comes out like that, you're confident. You're cool as a cucumber.
Right. I don't know.
You're not stressing out at all, going, maybe I'm a few days off.
No. If the pattern fits, I might be a day or two off. But on those forecasts, the GFS model, the European model that comes out 7-10 days, I saved all the models. The ones that came out 10 days before the Super Bowl 2 years ago, they were the exact opposite of the weather pattern, the exact opposite. So we knew they were wrong. And then when we get within 2 or 3 days, you can get within 2 days sometimes, and the models do not come around to the right forecast. And it's incredible.
Absolutely.
So talk for a couple of minutes about a personal story, Gary, about beating cancer.
I about 15 years ago, 1999, I was rollerblading, actually. A friend of mine took me rollerblading, and I broke my right wrist. And if I didn't break the right wrist, I'm probably not here today. Because I went into the doctor when he put the cast on this arm, and I said, what do you think that is right there? And they checked, they looked at it, and it was a tumor, and it was a bone cancer tumor, extraskeletal osteogenic sarcoma is what it was called, out-of-the-bone bone cancer. I had extensive chemotherapy, and James, I lost my hair once through chemotherapy. Then my hair grew back, and then I lost it again. So I think I was about to lose my hair. So it was that was interesting. But Yeah, so I'm a cancer survivor. I went through extensive chemotherapy. I'm all about early detection.
Wow.
Fortunately, I found out early. I might not have asked the doctor about this for months, and that might have been long enough to be a problem.
Wow. Well, we're so glad that it wasn't. Gary, you use dogs in communicating the weather. Talk about how you do that.
Hey, Sonny. Breezy.
And we don't have your
Stormy.
camera right now, so you'll have to make
This
sure
show's going right to the dogs.
Yeah.
Barking up at the wrong tree.
I've got Sonny.
Where's my bear?
I've got Sonny, the weather dog, Breezy, the weather dog, and Stormy. Stormy is 14 and a half. Aubrey, I don't know if you saw, I held up Stormy briefly a little while ago. She walked in here. But she's 14 and a half years old. She's getting up there, very, very old. But Sonny's my new puppy. I go to schools and take them with me, and Sonny's on the air every Friday, and she does her twins.
Bear's a little ornery right now, so we're just gonna leave her to be.
What's your dog's name?
Her name is Bear.
Bear.
As in grizzly.
Oh.
She's a 14-pound Shih Tzu Lhasa mix.
She has her own Facebook.
Hey,
She
Gary.
has her own Facebook page. She does.
That's right.
Follow
does.
the bear on Facebook. I'm surprised it wasn't taken. Just the bear.
Hey, Gary, do you share going back to the long range stuff, do you share this with your television viewers in Kansas City?
Ooh, here we go. You're going to open a can of worms here. They're probably watching. Yes.
That's what we're paid to do, the big bucks.
Yeah. I share it all with them. We talk about it. I did a whole special, every year I do my winter forecast. So I'm using the LRC to make my winter forecast. We did a real accurate winter forecast, spring forecast, and summer forecast this year. And so, yes, I'm using the LRC for on the air. Now, you know how the bosses are. They won't let me talk about weather 2020. Are you allowed to talk about WeatherBrains on the air?
You bet, buddy. I can talk about anything.
But I can't talk
Can
about.
you do me a favor and talk to my bosses?
No.
I can't talk about my side
this.
business.
I'm working for these new guys. I don't even know what the rules are, so who knows? But with the old guys, yeah, we talked about WeatherBrains all the time.
Yeah, well, I guess if Weather 2020 really becomes successful, and there's every reason to think that this is the year that we're taking this out of the underground and taking this new technology. Here comes my dog Sunny. You got to see this dog. She's a little 4-month-old puppy, but yeah, we're gonna. Look at Sunny.
That's 4 months old.
4 months old.
She's bigger than my bear.
She's an Australian Shepherd mix.
Wow.
But yeah,
Beautiful.
but James, I'm not allowed to talk about that on the air yet. So, but I talk about the LRC, just not my company. You know how that goes. No, you don't know how that goes.
No, I do. I talk about WeatherBrains, but I can't. I have a side business that has nothing to do with weather, and obviously I can't talk about that.
Mine
But
has
I can
everything
talk
to do with weather.
Fort Wagler Woodworking. I can talk about it here.
There you go.
How come we haven't
Shameless
gotten
plug.
T-shirts yet?
You guys want some T-shirts? We have.
Absolutely.
They're brand new. Wagler
Absolutely, they should be
t-shirts.
showing up in our mailbox.
Yeah, we got some Fort Wagler T-shirts. Actually, this is a good color. I like this color.
So speaking of the weather business going down the tube, so let me ask Gary this. I ask everybody. So Gary, now you're not working tonight, are you? You got the off work look.
I'm on vacation.
On vacation,
Yeah,
nice.
I got the whole week off, and I'm heading down to Table Rock Lake tomorrow on the Missouri-Arkansas border. Never been there.
James, we need to check his sanity. He's on vacation and he's doing WeatherBrains.
Yeah, doing this show, there's clearly something wrong with that. So the question is, so why should anybody stay up late and watch the 10 o'clock news to watch you, and they can get weather on their phone anytime they want to? What's the future of this business, and that weather's now just a commodity, and people know what the weather's going to do? What do you do at 10 o'clock at night to attract people to watch?
Well, James, I think it's extremely important for you in your position at this stage of your career, for me in my position at my stage of the career, to be a prominent person in the market that people trust for severe weather. So when it comes to severe weather coverage, they still want that personal connection to you, to me, to other people like us out there that they trust, that they believe in, but the rest of it, I think, it's a challenge. You've seen what has happened to weather. To the news, the entire newscast has become weather. The anchors are reading about new weather. They're doing weather stories.
Yeah, they are.
And they're doing science stories. It's become, weather is the one thing that's reality TV changing every single day. Even if you're in Los Angeles, maybe not San Diego. I think San Diego is the most boring place in the world for weather. I grew up out there. But I think the TV weathercaster is still necessary for a while. But like with WeatherBrains, you have the web. A web show could take over. What do you think?
Well, I think we have to change to survive. I've been preaching this for a long time, and if we don't change, we're not going to survive. But the nice thing about it, there's always going to be a big screen television hanging up, and the platform is not going away. For the newspaper guys, their platform's going away. But for us, we're still going to be there. At least we have the ability to be on that big screen. I just think doing a Ron Burgundy newscast, good evening, here's the news. They go talk about the city council and this and that. It's something out of a bad movie from the 70s. We've got to change. And I've said this before on our 4 o'clock news, and I watched Channel 4 today at 4 o'clock, which was the only station, to my knowledge, doing 4 o'clock. I tuned around, and they must have had Morgan on 20 times during that thing. It was just like all weather all the time. When I come on our 4 o'clock news, I don't get up on the green screen and, sunny skies for your Thursday. The brick Tamlin, I'm not doing that. I'm showing stuff off an iPad. I go radical at 4 o'clock, and it's worked.
Exactly.
We tried to do it at 10. It was a disaster. These old people that watch these newscasts hated it. The people that are watching our newscasts are getting in their 70s and their 80s. They want you to go up there and be Rick Tamlin. But we've got to figure out a way to change to be relevant to younger people. And I'm not talking people in their 20s. I'm talking people in their 40s and 50s. My wife doesn't watch the news, and she's in her 50s. So I'm just saying we got to change. And smart people, if you can figure out what the weather's going to be at Christmas, you got to be able to figure out the future of our business.
Well, James, I'm very popular among the 40 to 65 age group. So.
But you're good looking. I mean, look at us.
Come on, Aubrey. That 4 p.m. show is important. Scripps Howard Broadcasting, who I work for, we started the show called The Now, and it moves around, and I'm in various different locations.
You work with my friend Allison.
Yeah.
Allison Bruner.
Yeah.
Yes. She used to work here.
Oh my gosh. No, I love Allison. She's awesome. Yeah. She's part of that show.
She came to my wedding.
No way.
Absolutely.
That's incredible.
Yep.
So, but no, I'll tell her hi. I'll see her.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to see her for a week because I'm off for the next week.
All right. I'll send her a text.
But no, you're right, James. Things are evolving. I would say in our own community in the last 10 years ago, there was a big concern that our jobs were in jeopardy, and instead news is phased into all weather, and that's why on the national news we have to hear 28 million people are in the path of this severe
it's 80 million in the path. 80 million.
80 million people are in the path of this severe weather outbreak today. And every single time I hear that, I'm like, and 18 people are going to get impacted. That's it. So it drives me nuts.
Yeah, but, I just – and you're in a great weather market. Kansas City is a great weather market. And yes, you are right. During tornadoes, people will turn on and they're going to find you and they're going to find me and find these guys here in Oklahoma City. But what do we do on the 330 days during the year where you don't have a big snowstorm, big tornado outbreak, or hurricane on these mundane days?
What do we do in a non-severe market? Shenandoah Valley.
Yeah, you don't get anything in the Shenandoah Valley. But again, you're an attractive person. We're not.
Weather dogs. Weather dogs.
Weather dogs. That's right.
So in the next question, Gary, I like to ask. Oklahoma City here obviously is the most aggressive severe weather market in the country, with the exception of one thing.
7 years.
And I will fuss at these guys for one thing. It seems as though if there is a tornado warning, and I know you can't say anything, Rick is just sitting here with his mouth closed. If there's a tornado warning for a rural county, and there's a lot of EM people in rural counties, they won't do it. They won't cover it if it's affecting Oklahoma City or Moore or Norman or Chickasha. Yeah, they'll be on television. it's like you're discriminating against people that live out in the country. But other than that, this is the most aggressive severe weather market in the country. How would you define Kansas City as a severe weather market?
I would say it's not as crazy as Oklahoma City, but Kansas City's been in an unusual situation. We have not had much severe weather for the last few years. We have really had limited severe weather, James. This summer it got active. We had more tornadoes after we got to June 15th. Tornado season is supposed to shut down, but not here. June 15th to July 10th, and that 25-day stretch, we probably had 5 tornadoes in the Kansas City metro area. They're all fairly small, but you know, I got my experience in. You know, you've had your experience with Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and by the way, I can show you that April 27th day on the LRC and how it fit the pattern so perfectly, and you would have known about that 50 days before, and you could have set everything up. But anyway, that's a whole other story. My point is, it hasn't been that active here. It's competitive. You know, I'm the most accurate. You know, I've been very accurate, and you know, we have that weather rate thing. With weather rate, I've won 10 years now, 10 out of the last 12 years. I have a very good competitor in town. He does a great job, Chris Suchan on Channel 5. He's a very good forecaster. Why did he have to come to this market? Thanks, Chris. He beat me for 2 years in a row, but I beat him last year. And let me tell you, on that weather rate thing, I mean, you know, for my boss, it was everything. It was everything. I was living and dying, and we had this one snowstorm that came down the middle of the city. It was only one county wide, and I predicted it. If that snow doesn't materialize that day, I would have lost this year. And Chris knows that, I know that, but I won, so it's like winning the Super Bowl here. But
what is the model, Gary? This is Kevin in Wichita Falls. What is the model on that weather rate thing now? We talked about it some years ago, and he went in and he was plucking the data from the station's websites. Is that still the model?
It's still the model. Now, if you're a good forecaster, you should not be letting it go to that. You go to weatherrate.com and you put in your numbers. You put in your numbers.
Oh, he allows you to put in? So does everybody in your market participate in that?
Well, I believe 3 out of 4 do. The 4th one, we're not going to say who it is, but someone is a really bad forecaster. We'll leave it at that. But you put the numbers in, and you know, then at the end of the day, every single week you get a result. And you're either leading or winning. And right now I'm trailing. I'm trailing by point.
So define what putting the numbers is in.
The next 4 days. Bruce Fixman's system is the next 4 days. You put in day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. You put the high, the low of each day, whether it's going to rain. On the first day, you can pick rain periods, 3 different periods. Like for tomorrow, I think it's going to rain. Is it going to rain all 3 periods? You can click those and get points taken away if you're wrong.
Rain where? Over the whole market at the airport? Or?
Within the 5 counties around your local area.
Okay.
So, for Kansas City. So it's usually not the entire viewing area, but if it rains 35 miles to my north and it's sunny to our south, you have to put rain down for that day. So there's some flaws to the system, but it's the best system out there. I've won 10 out of 12 years, and but for the boss, it's not good enough. You got to keep winning.
So here's a question from Twitter, Gary.
Okay.
This is from Twitter. So why doesn't a team take Gary's discovery to a computer and produce a new forecasting model?
We're working on a model right now, and it's starting very simple. But obviously, the University of Oklahoma, you know, researchers around the world. You should contact me and let's get going. Let's get this going. Obviously, it can be modeled. It's real. It's out there. A new model can be developed, but they would be different. Here's the problem. It sort of threatens us as meteorologists because it's different than the conventional models looking out to 16 days. It's a completely different situation. You can't take today's data and go 100 days in the future. There would be way too many errors in the models. We already know that. Day 16 is often wrong. Sometimes it's right, though, and I can tell you which days they are pretty close. But it's a different kind of computer model. I've got an idea on how to do it. I projected temperature forecasts. There's other people working on this. You know, You have the Madden, there go my dogs. You have the Madden-Julian oscillations, the MJO, and that's measuring convective complexes, weak and strong through the tropics. That's a cycling weather pattern that exists. What's happening up here is bigger.
You said day 16 is right or wrong, or whichever day. Is right or wrong when? When it comes around?
No. Like, for example, the GFS model is coming out today, right? I know what the pattern is likely going to look like in 16 days. In fact, if you go to weather2020.com right now, put it on the top, you'll see, put in your zip code, you get your forecast for the next 12 weeks, and you'll see my video. Watch the video for the Pittsburgh-New England game.
But I'm asking for the verification.
Right.
If it's day 16 and you say partly cloudy 72, does that verify 16 days from now? And isn't day 16, 15, 14, 13, 12 going to change during that period?
Yes. When you're forecasting the weather 7 days out, and I think you guys would agree, if we say there's going to be snow next Monday, and it's ended up being 70 next Monday, but it snows next Tuesday, it was just you're 1 day off on a 7-day forecast. I would still consider that accurate if the storm you predicted was 1 day off at 7 days. At 16 days, maybe you're a day and a half or 2 days off with the LRC model, and at 100 days, maybe you're 3 days off, but it shouldn't be more than 3 or 4 days off. It'll return, and you can make adjustments as you get closer to it. Does that make sense?
Kind of, yes.
It's complex.
So on weather2020.com, I put in a zip code.
Mm-hmm. What's the forecast for Alabama this week?
Well, I was going to say, I'm reading, it says if you have vacation or wedding plans in these cities, did you write this, or do you have a staff member that writes this? Who writes the narrative here?
Myself and my team of meteorologists. We have 4 people, and we are writing them. And we have learned, guys, that when you make a forecast 12 weeks from now, 6 weeks, 12 weeks out, don't change the forecast. We have changed the forecast because the GFS model or the European model comes out predicting a storm we didn't have in there, and so we make a mistake and we go with the model. We should never have changed that forecast. It was more accurate before that. So those forecasts are written by humans, meteorologists, every one of them.
And like September 27th, this is tracking one system. This consultant guy hadn't been in your face, has he? The tracking guy?
No, we haven't had my editor go into that one.
So one says tracking one system, and the next one says tracking a storm system.
Yeah.
And you got it all the way down to November 1st. So November 1st, 66 and 43. So you think that you're convinced in your heart that this is working and it's not a scam, and on November 1st, this is, and I know you said you could be wrong. I understand that, but you honestly believe in your heart this is working for you.
This is working. We have a track record. It is really that accurate. You know, they're not. We raise the bar real high. Gary England told me years ago, I'm raising the bar way too high. If we're right 70% of the time, 30% of the time we're going to be wrong. And believe me, I hear about it when we're wrong. And it's incredible. But right now, to answer your question about October and November, and this is honestly the truth here, that's not a very good forecast for October and November. By December, when we know the new weather pattern, before Christmas, 3 weeks before, we'll have a good idea of what's going to happen for Christmas. By January 1st, our confidence is off the charts high. And from January through September, we are totally confident in these forecasts.
But when you hit the point where you can say for Christmas Day, from that point, and when is that? October?
Probably not till November, really, for Christmas.
Right. Okay, so it's November 1st, and you say Christmas Day.
Right.
Do you stick with that forecast that you put out on November 1st for a month and 3 weeks, or does it change over that time?
We will probably adjust that and update that because we learned so much from November 1st to December 1st.
Right.
Because if the pattern sets up October 5th, then the cycles are usually between 35 and 80 days, and most often between 45 and 60 days. If it's a 60-day cycle, we're not going to know until December 1st for sure with that cycle like this. Then
I'm actually trying to get to the. I'm still trying to understand the verification thing. Let's move further into the season then. Are you locked in by January 1st?
Yes.
Okay, so if it's January 1st and you say partly cloudy 72 or snowstorm on Valentine's Day, you don't stick with that for 6 weeks. You'll be able to massage it, I assume, if you see something, right? And so at what point are you checking the verification? Because if on January 1st you said partly cloudy 72 and January 29th you said snowstorm, where's the verification come in?
Say that again. I'm watching my battery. My low battery says my computer's about to go out. So keep going. Say that one more time.
If it's January 1st and you say partly cloudy 72 for Valentine's Day, and then it's January 29th and you say snowstorm, and one of those two things happens on Valentine's Day, is that a verify?
It's just like us forecasting for Friday. If we say on Friday it's going to rain or snow on Monday, and then by Wednesday we say, oh, it's not, it's going to be sunny, then your Wednesday forecast better be right. So your updated forecast better be right.
So the update, it can update throughout that period, and the verification point comes when?
We'll have one level. The 6-week verification will have another level. The 2-week verification will have another level. But we often don't change that.
Time targets. I see.
Yeah, we often do not change those forecasts.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. You're muted, James.
You're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, my bad. My producer here is screaming. Unmute. We're going to roll a couple of recorded segments here, and we're going to come back with email, picks of the week, weather roundup, talk about Camille. We'll talk about the almanac. There's a lot. Gary, can you your battery's dying? Can you stay with us?
I'm going to go get the cord and plug in.
All right.
Plug in, man. Plug in. So we're going to be right back as WeatherBrains rolls along. And what I'm going to do here, we're going to edit in Brian's segment and the astronomy report because our people here in the room can't hear us. We have a live audience. So producer JP, we're going to pick it up coming out of the astronomy report in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thanks to Tony Rice for the astronomy report and Brian for that riveting WeatherBrains 101. Time now for the weather roundup. And so it's hot in Oklahoma. We know that.
It's hot in Oklahoma, but not for much longer. We got a taste of fall coming, and Brian's talk of a high. What'd you say the high was in Birmingham today?
79.
We're looking at a high like 71 here for Wednesday, so.
And maybe lows in the 50s, right?
Maybe lows in the 50s and some rain and storms and maybe some severe weather, and you get all these emergency managers together, something's bound to happen.
Yeah, these people are the problem. They had a convention, and you have severe weather when all the EMs get into one room. Yep. So that's the problem. But this looks like the first, to me, really good digging trough of the fall. It just looks like a fall trough coming through. So Kevin, you'll feel it too, won't you?
Yeah, some of the Moss has mid to upper 70s for Wichita Falls for Wednesday, which would be really nice.
Wow. And how are you guys doing on rain out here, Rick and Kevin?
Things are drying up pretty quick. I mean, all that rain we got in the spring is, we could use some more. So
yeah,
things
no one down here
brown up a little bit.
Yeah, no one down here cares because the lakes are full.
Yeah.
And again, that will bring a chance of some severe weather to parts of the Great Plains and ultimately the Midwest this week. Got the tropical system, and again, we have Invest 96L. This is in the eastern Atlantic, and we've looked at some maps internally here, but this is underneath that dry air coming off the African desert. So I pose to our panel here, what happens with this? Brian, you're our tropical expert.
Well, actually, I did do a little bit of looking at storms that have formed in that area, and this is a pretty favorable time. There's been in that area, there's been about 10 storms that have been storms or formed storms in that area. So,
great. Again,
Brian, I think this year's going to break all the rules.
Yeah. Brian, your audio's gone into that weird, funky mode here, so if you can unplug and replug. Rick, what
Okay.
you're out here in Oklahoma. You probably don't care. What do you think?
I don't care.
You don't care. I knew that. It looks like a low-latitude system that's probably going to get in the Caribbean, but there's a lot more questions than answers. You get these digging mid-latitude troughs pretty far south. I mean, I don't know. It might at some point.
And it might not do well in the Caribbean either.
Yeah. And by the way, where's Dr. John tonight? He's our big brain guy. He's the guy I'd be asking
Yeah,
this.
the answers.
He's on TV.
He would know.
I haven't
He's on
heard from
TV,
Dr.
I
John
think.
in a while.
Yeah, he sent a note. He's on TV.
Oh, he's doing television. Okay. Well,
I think we got a lot of bored meteorologists who haven't had anything going on in the tropics for a while. So whatever it becomes, there's going to get a lot of attention.
and if Nate was here, what would he say? It only takes
One.
Is
to make a big
Godzilla on the
season.
names list this year?
And Kevin hasn't said anything about Galveston.
No.
I would play that song, but I can't hear the soundboard with this setup in here, so I will not bore you with a Glenn Campbell song here.
You want me to sing a few
but-
bars?
No. So we'll see what happens. And of course, the Eastern Pacific is very active. I mean, it has just been nonstop, which is typical of an El Nino. And let's just air it out here. You got the Godzilla El Nino. So Gary, you're our long range guy. San Francisco, Los Angeles. Beneficial rain, yay or nay here?
It depends on how the LRC sets up. So it's true. If we will know in October, November, let's see where the storm systems are reaching their peak strength. And if it happens to be near the West Coast, then California will be the target. But it might not be. It could be South Texas and the Gulf Coast that gets the most impacting area. So every El Nino is different. Why is that? Because every single year a unique weather pattern sets up. Every El Nino is different. Where the waters are warmest and coolest are different every year, and there's a lot more that's going on.
So Gary, you got a lot of emergency managers in this room. They want to know what's the spring tornado season going to be like in Oklahoma.
I'll let you know in November or December.
Oh, brother. That's a great answer.
I'll know then.
All right. Well, let me do this. I'm going to play this music, and we're going to do a little email segment here. And normally I would be talking up into the middle of this, but I can't do that because I can't hear it. But let's do some email.
Letters. We get letters. We
Am I muted or am I unmuted? Okay, I'm unmuted.
You're unmuted.
All
Go.
right, let's go. So the first email comes in from Andrew Thompson with the. I can hear myself in the background, just so you guys know. But that occasionally happens with my IFB. So Andrew Thompson sent us in silly weather map with an oddly shaped weather map seen on the WGN Morning News. And I won't show it, but let's say it's in the form of some sort of body part. So that's, yeah, it just, sometimes those things just happen, especially when, do you guys have to go up there and draw sometimes?
No.
This
You guys
happened
don't have to?
on purpose.
Oh.
This could not have been an accident.
Well, yeah, that could not have been an accident, but sometimes when you're up there and you're forced to draw, and sometimes, sometimes drawing doesn't always work when you're.
It was, you can say it was Godzilla's hoo-ha. And there's your show title.
I don't know if I can go on.
No doubt that is the show title.
Okay, Jeff. Well, now the dog's coming running because she thinks something's wrong with me.
Something is wrong with you. You're participating in the show.
I think Aubrey's been in the liquor cabinet here. This might be the greatest email segment ever.
I don't know what my husband put in my soup earlier.
There's so many show titles in this segment. We got enough for the next 3 months.
Well, we're breaking the bank tonight.
And I keep looking at my microphone like it's a camera again. I hate when I do that. Jeff Wilcox sent in a topic. So he was looking through the schedule of guests and looking ahead to show 511, which would, according to be his edition, would be about November 9th. And of course, 511 is the number you would call for travel information. So we thought that maybe that would be a good show to have for people from the Department of Transportation talk about weather and how they prepare for it. I think about how road conditions, how the road affects, or the weather affects the road and what temperature, snow, and all that good stuff forms and everything like that, because we don't know how the road reacts sometimes. And then I also got a nice personal note. Aubrey, you do not need to read below this on air. We'll read that later. And we got a couple of listener survey response. Yeah. Yeah, it was do not read on air below this line.
What? So now you left us hanging. I mean, come on, give us a hint.
It was just a drawing.
This is
a drawing of what?
It's a note about severe weather and stuff. It's nothing important. It's not anything like odd or anything. So Paul Gilbertson sent us in a listener survey response who listens from Cobb, California. Being out west, I would love to hear some interviews with California Fire, U.S. Fire Service, fire official meteorologists, also the NWS dispatcher meteorologists that have helped in some large fire incidents. Would be interesting to hear more about this program. And he gave us a link about fire.ca.gov. So thank you for that response. And also John Gleish, I think is how you would pronounce his last name, just started listening, but I've been listening to the last 3 shows. The longer, the better, according to John. I follow Mike Smith and remember that he posted a while ago that he was on the show. The more recent show, Jeff Pearsoff, was riveting. Hearing stories of boots on the ground like this, maybe storm recaps like that with personal stories would be great. And then we also got another listener survey response from Mike Estwick. And let's see, Mike is from Colorado. Learn about us from watching YouTube of James Spann and seeing him mention it on the Alabama weather site. I think the show is great. And you guys cover many different aspects of science, not just the weather forecasting. Guest suggestions, CBS 4 Denver meteorologist Chris Spears or Chair of Meteorology Department at Metro State University in Denver, Dr. Sam, and I don't have a last name. Keep up the great work. So thank you for your emails. We appreciate it. If you'd like to send us an email, send it to email@weatherbrains.com. You can also find us on the Facebook and the Twitter, or you can follow us all individually, or you can just search WeatherBrains, and you can follow the WeatherBrains.
All right, and again, we're trying to get out on time tonight because a lot of people are staying up very late to watch this, and we're coming up on 10 o'clock. Real quick, Bill Murray, you're the historian. Camille on this date in 1969. I was 13 years old. You can do the math and figure out how old I am now. I'm not 60 yet, but I'm pushing it. But I was 13 years old. I stayed up all night long listening to a Clear Channel radio station, WWL-AM. A guy named Nash Roberts, who was on that station forever, was on the air, and it made a big impression on me. I had a little transistor radio under my pillow. My mom didn't know that I stayed up all night, but it really made a big impact on me. And seeing the pictures and the video in coming days, it was just stunning. So, Bill, your thoughts on the anniversary of Hurricane Camille on this date in 1969?
Well, I think it's fascinating, James, when you go back and look, at what went on that Saturday when, we're talking about rudimentary satellite pictures, and the director of the National Hurricane Center, Robert Simpson, believed that storm was a lot stronger than what, they knew it was, because the reconnaissance, into it on that Saturday was impossible because all of the planes that the Navy had were flying in the Atlantic for Project Storm Fury, trying to seed Hurricane Debbie. And so they had 2 aging Connies sitting in Jacksonville, and they could not penetrate the storm. So the drop zone that they released 40 miles from the center of the storm on that Saturday morning read 992 millibars, which is not even close to what the strength of it was. When they finally got someone from the Air Weather Service in Illinois to get a C-130 into the storm that afternoon, they found that the central pressure was down to 908 millibars. And so they knew they had a much bigger storm than what they thought. So instead of a 115-mile-an-hour hurricane, which is bad enough, they had at least a 150-mile-an-hour hurricane that they, advertised later that afternoon. And the next day, they were able to go in and say this storm had winds of 190 miles an hour, when in fact the plane had said, the officer on the plane said that it probably had 210-mile-an-hour winds. And, they were able to confidently predict, they were going to have record-setting surge on the Gulf Coast. So I just think that what they were doing that Saturday and Sunday, at the National Hurricane Center and in in the Weather Bureau in New Orleans, because that's where the hurricane advisories came from, was just phenomenal. And that the loss of life along the Mississippi coast was, relatively low, I think, at 153, even though that was terrible. It could have probably been much worse. Of course, there were probably still 27 people were never found. But I think that hurricane is just fascinating and something that we really need to keep an eye on in a year like this, where we could have close-in development along the, in the Gulf of Mexico.
All right, Bill says another Hurricane Camille's coming this year. You heard it first on this show.
I'm asking Gary. I don't know what Gary thinks.
Yeah, so let's see. Again, we got to hurry.
September 15th.
And again, the almanac, and I think Marshall Shepard put out an interesting tweet, Rick. I don't know if you saw his tweet. The media will report anything from blogs and almanacs, but they often don't stop and do good science in the report. But that's all over. The big, snowy, nasty winter. It's going to be horrible, blah, blah, blah. And I know Gary's waiting on that LHS. What do you call that thing? LRC.
And
LRC.
James, you see what the Farmer's Almanac did? Number one, they say the same thing. They predicted a very hot summer. They were wrong. They predicted this brutal winter every year. They just do it. But I believe it said in there, tell me if this is not the truth, go look, but I believe it said that every city that gets snow will have a white Christmas. Okay? So that means the cities that end up with a white Christmas, people are going to go, wow, they got it right.
Oh, brother. All right. Before our head explodes here, let's do Picks of the Week, and we'll wrap this thing up. My pick, it is the In-Car Tropical Site. Rick, what's your pick of the week?
My pick of the week is a Vane post from earlier this week. Do you have what it takes to predict the weather? The reality behind becoming a meteorologist. Really good look at behind the scenes of what really goes into being a meteorologist. It's not as easy as it looks on television.
And all these links will be up on WeatherBrains.com.
Yeah, I wasn't going to mention the reality show.
Oh, but has anybody in this room seen that show, the
I
TBS show?
I watched the first 30 minutes of the first episode. It was the worst thing I've ever seen.
I saw the promo, and that was enough for me.
I've never. I like what the article said. I would rather hit, a pinata full of bees than watch that show.
Oh my God.
It reminds me. So one time I had to cut. It was a program called the Ricky Lake Show. This was back in the '90s, and I had to cut off the Ricky Lake Show to do a tornado warning. You know what the topic was on that show? Women who named their butt cheeks. I'm serious. It is just.
You interrupted that?
I know, but this show is just as idiotic as that. It is. Who is watching this?
It's the worst thing I've ever seen on television, and I've seen a lot of bad stuff.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so anyway, so that's our pick. Let's go. Gary, you got to have a pick for us, man. I bet you it's weather2020.com.
I don't know what the pick is. I've got a sports team today, and that's those Kansas City Royals. How about those Royals? They're hot.
Go Royals.
Yeah, there you go.
So we were, we got to a Cardinals game this year, but we've not been to a Royals game. So,
hey, James, ask Aubrey where her fantasy baseball team is in our league.
Well, Aubrey?
Come on, Aubrey.
The team name spans suspenders.
Yeah, you need to ask for your money back, James.
Yeah, might be.
Is it in the tube? Right down the tubes, huh?
It's in the tube, yeah.
Great.
I tried.
Thanks for trying. All right, so Aubrey, what's your pick of the week?
Well, I'll tell you, it's not Fort Wagler Woodworking, but if you wanted to Google us, we are on Etsy, Facebook, and Instagram.
All right, that's my pick of the week.
Here's my pick of the week.
But no, my pick of the week is actually it's best weather across the world, and pay attention to the last one. It's some really interesting stuff about Iceland.
Okay, cool. And again, Brian's going to have all these picks up on the website. Looks like Kevin is back on television here. Brian, what's your pick of the week?
The article from the Capital Weather Gang about the Old Farmer's Almanac.
Ooh.
What do you do to clean your audio up? Your audio just comes back as clean as a whistle when you do whatever you do.
I just reset it. I just tell it to save it, and that's all.
Okay, maybe turn it off and on.
I don't unplug anything.
So,
Unplugging work.
So next week it's Show 500, Bill. What's going to happen next week?
Well, David
I'll
Black
turn
will
into
be coming back
pumpkins.
to join us. We've invited John Olshoe. So everybody who's ever been on the show in terms of a panelist will be here. And we have a top secret moderator to come and just sort of lead us down memory lane through 500 shows. We've been assembling today a list of every guest that's ever been on the show. And we'll have that by next
That's a
week.
job.
And it really is a job, but it's fabulous. I mean, just the people who have come through the show are just amazing. So anyway, we'll have, what I want to do next week, and I'll kind of alert the panelists, is, have your favorite memories, different things, favorite guests, favorite things we covered, some funny segments, that sort of stuff for show 500.
Cool. Well, and again, thanks to everybody in here for staying late. They've been here for like 2 hours, this is pure. Most of these folks would probably have needles coming through their eyes.
Yeah, you'll never get those 2 hours back, folks. Sorry about that.
Hey, Gary, if somebody wants to follow you on Twitter, social media, what's the best way to do that?
G. Lezak.
The one thing about you, you're a very interesting guy.
Well, thank you. Glezak. G. Lezak on Twitter.
All right, there you go. Go follow Gary, and you can ask him questions over
Sunny
there.
the Wonder Dog, too.
But we got to wrap this thing up. We're typically on Monday nights at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. You can watch live at live.bigbrainsmedia.com. Thanks tonight to my friend Rick for his marvelous hospitality today. All of our friends in the EM community here in Oklahoma for their hospitality, for hosting us tonight. We will be back, by the way, in Oklahoma in October. Bill Murray and Rick for the NWA annual meeting, the National Weather Association. So that Monday night, the same thing. We'll originate the show here. We'll break out the PR-40s and have a little party. Where's this shindig, Rick?
That's going to be in downtown Oklahoma City, the Cox Convention Center. Very nice facility. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
There is some word that we may be back at the National Weather Center on Monday night for the show and the reception. So that may be letting the cat out of the bag, but I hope that happens. And I've already checked Gary's weather forecast for that week, and we look good. One storm system. We're fine.
All right, we got to wrap it up. So, again, join us. And if you're listening, thank you for listening. We know that most of you do. If you've been watching, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew. I'm James Spann. Thanks for listening. Have a great week, and God bless.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Thanks for being on.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot.
Enjoyed it, Gary.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Enjoyed it, guys. Bye. Thanks, Andre, for